Hello, and thank you for joining me for another installment of our physical education and wellness implementation support. My name is Paul Marlette, and I have the great pleasure of continuing to work with you on this challenge of bringing this new curriculum to life. This is a session that I am thrilled and really excited to be launching. So this primarily came out of discussions with our collaborative community about the increasing complexity of our population, specifically with regards to the increase in EAL, or English as an Additional Language students. In some schools, we have up to 20 different languages in the same class. Some schools, especially up north, I've been talking with upwards of 40 to 50 languages in the school. So it poses some big challenges in the gym and in classrooms. We had a wonderful webinar with Lynn Ferrugia, who is the APLC coordinator for EAL, and that video will also be with this series because it brought to light some of the subtle pieces that if you don't know, you'd never know. So this was an extension off of that series that we were working on. So in this 3 video series, I'm going to be giving just a quick overview of what and why the resource was built. And then we're going to be joined by an amazing ASL 2B interpreter. She's actually a grade 12 student who is just about to graduate and go into her official ASL translating interpreting program. Anyway, she worked with me quite extensively for probably over 3 weeks to develop this resource. So we're just going to dive right in. So the whole notion of universal expectations for phys ed started because I was trying to come up with a way where we could take a group of students and develop some form of nonverbal communication to enforce and to guide everyone, regardless of their understanding of the verbal language. Because remember, many of our EAL students are actually to the point where they're not even fully literate within their own language. So this poses some big challenges. So I jumped right back into some of my research when I was in university that looked at what I thought it was 85% of our communication was nonverbal. Well, it turns out that was kind of watered down. So I went back to the source and kind of the recent stuff. And this is what actually the research is showing, is that only 7% of what we communicate is through the spoken word. Now that poses some problems, but it also is kind of refreshing and encouraging when we're dealing with our EAL population. 38%, give or take, right, is going to be tone of voice, so how we say it, and 55% is going to be what we're doing with our body in nonverbal verbal communication. So again, when this came to my mind, I kept on thinking, how can we capitalize on this? How can we access this in order to support all students in our class, but specifically those English as an additional language? So the physical learning cues that we've built in this series and the resources have been built to kind of bridge that gap, to kind of standardize some of those communication pieces. So all nonverbal cues, there are a few parameters to them. Number one, we needed to create something that was clear and concise and was simple. It also needs to be predictable and consistent. So that's some of the things you're going to hear throughout. Consistency is going to be really important when we start to get into this kind of work. The other one is, the last one here, is that it does need to be paired with your tone and the words. In true ASL, the interpreters, and we're not often talking, it's mostly just the signs. However, because we're trying to support and accelerate the learning and the understanding of our English as an additional language students, when we combine the words with, like, look at me, and the sign, we're reinforcing that word as well. Why did we choose, or why did I choose to go with ASL? Number one, it's established. So a quick bit of background on myself. had the privilege of working in a high school in Calgary that had a DHH, a deaf and hard of hearing, that those students were integrated into my phys ed class. And as soon as I heard that, I went to the interpreters and to the students, and I started learning as much ASL as I could. Challenging. After that, I ended up being the primary ASL teacher for about 6 months because the other teachers were on a leave and they knew that I had a connection with those students. And it was humbling and eye-opening, and I fell in love with the language. So it is an established language. It has standards. The other thing is that ASL can be very clear. It's very straightforward. And working with Gigi, what we were able to do was to streamline like a full ASL sentence into one word. Like just that. Like I've done this already. Just look. Like look. Right? It's a very simple and almost intuitive sign. But what it means is that those students who may not understand when you say look, and you give them that, if you look at them in the eye and you have them direct their attention, their focus towards you, what happens is that we start to develop that response. Okay? The other big thing for me with ASL is it's standardized. And it's quite what Gigi was able to work with me on. What we've come up with is pretty straightforward. It is easy to learn, but it will take some practice. And so the other thing is that why not just make up your own signals? Well, if every teacher in a school or even in a program makes up their own hand gestures, right? Like sit down if that's what you're going to do. It's not standardized. And it's not based on anything. And what happens is that those students who don't understand the language, it won't transfer from one teacher 1 year to the next. My big vision would be to have like a pilot school to take this on that has a high ASL or EAL population to use it like focus. It's a really simple sign, but to have every teacher say, no, it's time to focus, to see if that would support those students. And the other thing is that these universal expectations are a base for communications to make it simple and predictable, right? So we're trying to reduce the complexity of nonverbal cues in a universal way. So these 3 videos, when you start adding in sign language or ASL or any kind of nonverbal communication with intention, feels awkward and clunky and it feels a little ridiculous. But if you add the signs one at a time, if you add the ideas one at a time and just become consistent with it, you start to do it without even thinking. So what I would recommend is when you're watching, especially the 3rd video, pick 4 that you're going to try. My favorite one right now is stop, look, come on in. Right, just those three simple signs. Even sit down. Sit down's my other side. Sit down's a really simple one. So it's stop, look at me. Okay, everyone, come on in, and I want you to sit down. There's 4 signs right there. Okay, try it and watch what happens. The other key here is that if there's specific things your school is struggling with or you're focusing on in your class, remember what you focus on expands. So if we're focusing on students stopping or responding to a cue, focus on that, pair it with a sign, and just see what starts to happen. This is a pretty extensive list because we wanted to give you as many options as we possibly could. So the other videos that are going to follow, after this, the next video in the series is about hand shapes. And working with Gigi was fantastic because she's also learning. And she was able to get it down to about 5 or 6 different hand positions. Okay. This is the hardest one where you cross your fingers. That's a hand. We use that for a few different things. Some of them are as easy as a finger or a thumb, but she's going to go through all of that kind of stuff. The next one is about how to use certain gestures to reinforce the universal physical education expectations that I went through and created with colleagues and friends and mentors as a basis, right? So again, we're trying to have something that's consistent and repeatable and something that we can reference. So if we post those 10 or 9 to 10 different expectations, depending on what grade level, what that allows us to do is to reference that as well. I had talked originally about getting some translations of these. So if you've got 20 languages, could we actually put the universal expectations up in the languages of the students in your class? Google's not good enough. I've talked with a lot of EALs uh, employees, students who are working with EAL students, and Google Translate makes a lot of mistakes. So this is one other thing that I was going to do, but I haven't been able to make all the contacts yet. The last thing about this resource is that it's like Shakespeare. When you're learning Shakespeare, one of the best things you can do, my father told me this, he was an English teacher, was just to read it. Pick up what you can and don't get too stressed out about the specifics. So the next video, just watch it. Try it with your hands. Just get the idea of what we're talking about. Last word of caution here is please don't make up your own signs. I got into a lot of trouble with this when I was the full deaf and hard of hearing teacher, because I was kind of thrown into it. I was not fluent. It took me a long time to even become conversational. But if we make up signs, some of those signs could actually be quite offensive. And I know you're not technically dealing with the DHH population, but it's just something to be aware of. You can pull up, if you want to add a different sign, pull it up on your phone. ASL, like group work, whatever it is, right? Or great job. Wonderful. So the last piece of this introductory video that I want to focus on is the list of universal expectations for physical education. I am by no means claiming that these are the only ones that you should use. There's 12. They're actually from K to 12. We tried to find something that we could use across all grades, especially when we're running workshops. And you may have your own that you like to add in. These expectations came from a lot of research online, talking to my mentors, talking to colleagues from across the province, continually running through scenarios in my mind when things went wrong and going back to, well, did I have an expectation that might have prevented that from happening in the first place? So again, this is being offered as an option and a suggestion, but also it guided the work that both Gigi and I went through in order to have simple nonverbal cues to help reinforce and communicate these. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to go through the 12. I really wanted it to be 10, but I had a hard time editing it down a little bit more. So we'll just take a few moments. So when you hear us talking about the universal expectations in the other videos, you'll understand where that's coming from. This will also be in the resource section with these videos as a PDF, so you can download that as well. Originally, what I really wanted to do was to get these translated into the 20 main languages. And what I started to realize the more I talked to people who are working with EAL students was this notion that I can't just pop these into Google Translate. I need to actually have these translated by a native speaker. So that is still something that I have on my to-do list. If you know someone who can do it, I think it would be brilliant to actually have these posted. They're one pages, right? One page. Could you actually post these around your gym or in the hallways or in the locker rooms of the main expectations? So even if students don't understand the English, they would at least have a background. They would at least have like an understanding. And that's assuming that those students can read in their own language, which I am very acutely aware that many of our EAL students are not even literate in their own language. But then if there are a few that you really need to focus on, you now have a way to bring them up to the translations and say, like number four, look at number 4. This is what I'm talking about, right? Okay, let's go. So again, these aren't going to come across as like really groundbreaking, but respect yourself, respect others. Always try your best and participate actively in all activities. Be kind to classmates and teachers using. Yes, we've incorporated a few things, but that one is about respect. Respect yourself, respect others. Respect the equipment and the space. Many of our cusps up to grade 4 awareness, and when we share space responsibly, that's a big piece of especially elementary physical education. React and respond to signals. So is that a whistle? Is it a rattle? Is it a drum? Is it your voice? What do you want to do? For me, if I give a signal, I want kids to stop. I want them to face me and either to come in or to sit down, and just all of those pieces, right? So you can adapt this so it works for you and your team, especially if there's more than one person teaching physical education. Stay focused, okay? Focus. Work hard to improve, no matter what your skill level. We just want people to push, right? To keep on getting better and to be a better teammate. Slide. Oh, it still works here. Move safely. Be aware of your surroundings and move carefully at all times, right? Are you trying to prevent injuries or are you causing them? Stay in control. This one is about being mindful of how you use your body and equipment to avoid accidents. This also means emotionally. So do we have students who get triggered and flare up? Well, part of our job in the gym is to anticipate that and to counter that and to be aware of a situation that may cause that so we can help students refocus. Number 7, show great sportsmanship and teamwork. So this is demonstrating fabulous sportsmanship by encouraging others and accepting outcomes gracefully. It's not about the win, but about the joy of moving. Are we rotating team roles to share leadership and how to be? 8, follow game rules. Follow game rules. So in this one, do we understand and follow the rules? Play with using fair play and honesty about our actions. Again, very challenging with students who can't explain themselves verbally. Next one, be ready to move. Are they dressing if you need them to? Do they show up with a good attitude? And do they expect to move? Do they act surprised when asked to move or start activities with enthusiasm? So these are, again, be ready to move, get ready to go. Celebrate small wins. This is for yourself and for others. Be present and mindful. Focus on the game or activity, leaving distractions aside. Seek growth by using feedback to set goals to improve. Again, be mindful is very much about what students need and how they're participating. The last one is to take responsibility. So are they being accountable to their actions? When mistakes happen, are they doing things to help themselves and others? Are they being honest about what happened? And to use that golden rule as a guide, treat others as you would like to be treated. I think the only other thing here that is missing, and I didn't put it on, is about not only being ready to move, but also being ready to slow down and listen and to do stretches and calm downs. So that's the basic concept as to why we built this short little video series. I hope it serves you, and I look forward to seeing you in the collaborative calls in the near future. Thank you so much. To add something nonverbal.